to the channel. Merry Christmas. What I'm working on today is some concepts for a creature encounter I'm doing for a campaign that I'm writing. And this creature is a ghost. And what he does is he haunts this area of the swamp that's just littered with moths, white, pale, bulbous moths that cover almost every inch of this little grove of the swamp. Even the puddles have these moths, dead, drowned, floating, bobbing in these very still waters. And the living moths all over this grove, yeah, their wings flutter slightly in ripples that almost look like the wind is running across them. And what this ghost does is he feeds on the fears of the party. And eventually, when he gets strong enough, he gathers up these moths and these fallen adventurers that are already there, that these moths have covered into mounds, picks up these mummified corpses. And so there's a combination of swirling moths around these mummified corpses. So I want to try just get some concepts down to get an idea of what he's going to look like in the scene. I want to capture the scene of the moth-covered swamp, as well as just as he's materializing, lifting this body up, and the moths are swirling around him, almost becoming a substantial shape unto themselves. I've just realized too that I've started on a new version of Photoshop on a new computer and have not carried any of my brushes across. So I'm just going to work in a hard round brush, and hopefully, yes, I have pen pressure and stuff. Yeah, so I've blocked it down into 6 sections. I'm just going to do 6 shape studies to try and get a very quick idea of a layout. So join me as I blast through this. First one shall go here. And so, yeah, the idea is even at the front here, actually, we're going to separate layer than the lines. Even at the front here, there might be what were once mossy branches sticking out, clawing out of the ground. But now they're also covered in these moths. So the whole world's going to have this monochrome feeling to it, almost like ash has settled all over the place. And what I might try to do to bring a little bit of colour in it, splash of red, is I'm going to say these fallen adventurers, the mummified corpses, some of them were wearing armour that's long rusted, so this almost orangey blood red colour has seeped into the puddles and areas of the swamp, staining them red. So when the ghost manifests and rises up, there'll be some of this red tinge throughout it as well, because these moths, especially the ones in the puddles, probably have a puddle here, will have been soaked in this orange ochre rust as well. So let's just try here, going for a bit of a rules of thirds here. Mummified adventurer, raised up, almost well, I was going to say almost supernaturally, but definitely supernaturally. This guy's a ghost. And so, yeah, there might be a view of his shape here. And what I was thinking is he might have somehow got hold of long bones from something, crocodile's rib cage or something like that, or his arms. And then, yeah, we would just have these moths almost swirling around. And we'll get some weird shapes out of that, which I'll play with. So yeah, it's almost maybe the moths, 1,000 wings have lifted this guy up, along with the power of this ghost. And what I'm really going to be going for with this encounter is that it's not just a pure combat encounter. It's going to start off with the ghost being an ethereal type being. And so the party won't even be aware that he's watching them or around. They might be, because they could have been sent here to stop the haunt, to capture his soul, or find some of these lost adventurers and what happened to them. But they won't be actually aware of where this ethereal ghost, the one we call the Murmuring Man, is. What is he doing? And the reason is that I want the encounter to actually be, I'm just going to throw some light and darks in here and start to see if I get a face or a form. Now, if you've followed my other tutorials, you know I like the smudge tool. What's this? 50% crap, 100% smudge. And then I just use that to play with forms and shapes. Yeah, but so it's not going to be just a pure combat encounter. The main reason I want to do it is to give the party a chance to roleplay and actually start to reveal some of their backstory. So what this Murmuring Man, this ghost, does is he'll psychically attack anyone who comes into his grove and burrow into them to find their deepest, darkest secrets. And from there, that's where he starts to feed on that, to grow in power. He feeds off misery, despair. He feeds off guilt and remorse and shame. And so he will enter, what's the word? It's not really possession, but he's going to be going into the deepest, darkest places of each character, burrowing in there, looking for these morsels of shame and secrets and guilt that the characters have carried with them and probably buried down deep. And so the first phase will be that psychic attack, where everyone has to make secret wisdom save to shield themselves against this burrowing of this ethereal creature, this ghost. And those who fail, and it's probably going to be quite a hard roll because you're in this creature's domain, its moth-ridden grove. And depending on how badly you save will be what it finds. If you save quite well, or if you're successful, you defend yourself. And you might even realize something attacked you. But if you're unsuccessful, say just unsuccessful, the player has to hold on to maybe not a great secret, but something they've kept from the rest of the party. It might be that there's a party member they're not overly fond of. It might be that they did something they're mildly ashamed of, but maybe they had good reason and they can justify it. But they can hold on to that for now. If they fail really badly, this murmuring man has burrowed deep and found like their deepest, darkest fear, secret that nobody knows that the player's been holding on to. They don't have to give that up just yet. That's the first phase. Second phase is the murmuring man. He tries to pull the secret, extract it into the light, where he can expose it to the rest of the party. Because he's feeding on it, he's growing strong from it, but he wants others to see it and feel shame or disdain or maybe even slight revulsion to the player. And so he wants to bring it up to triple its power, to keep adding to the misery and shame that this person feels. Because they'll feel more shame once the secret's out there and this murmuring man can feed on it again. So this time, there's a big saving throw. If the player wants to fight the secret being pulled from him, he'll feel it. He'll probably have dark thoughts. The secret will start to hammer at him and bubble and boil within, and he'll feel this need to either tell the party, or the murmuring man might just send flashes of image. And if the player fails this save to keep hold of this secret, then he's got to share it with the party, which will hopefully be quite an intense bit of role-playing and a way of players sharing their characters' deeper, darker backstories that sometimes never see the light of day. They write all these cool backstories, but they kind of get lost in the adventure. This way, they can do a bit of character work and have other characters react to it, how they feel about it. And so, yeah, the first phase is really, and the second is this unveiling where a character gets to, in their own way, maybe they could describe it as flashes of different scenes. Maybe, you know, they killed a sibling or something when they were young and have always said it was an accident or something like that. And this they have to show the truth of it. And if they failed to save, they have to show it unfiltered, uncensored, without the little lies we tell ourselves. They just have to put it out there stark. Maybe if you do save, you only have to share a little bit of the secret, and you're allowed to filter it, make yourself look good, like people often do with these secrets. You know, maybe lie about the sibling attacking you first and you had to defend yourself and things like that. So it becomes a way to share the characters' experiences with each other and take their story a little bit further. Okay, quite like that composition. Going to try another one. We'll group that into group 1. Okay, and what happens is if you fail that save, you take, depending on how bad the secret was, like one of those sub-level secrets, the ones where you might just have to show that you have a dislike for a character or that might only give you a level of misery. I've covered the misery mechanic in one of my videos, but it's almost like exhaustion. I think you got 9 levels of misery before you just sit down and give up to the swamp, and the swamp claims you. And often when they're walking through the swamp, they might find an adventurer who's just stopped walking, sat. It's almost like those Mount Everest bodies that you sometimes find where they just gave up. Yeah, so you lose a level of exhaustion. And if you have to expose this deep, dark secret, say the killing of a sibling or something, you could lose up to 3 levels of exhaustion. So the party grows weaker from this attack. And yeah, I'll repost the misery when I do the adventure, but yeah, there's different levels that the player gets weaker and weaker. And what I'm going to say is, from drawing on these miseries, the Murmuring Man gets stronger. And so you lose 3 levels of exhaustion. He gains 3 levels of powering up. And this goes around through all the players. So you'll see how strong the Murmuring Man gets from feeding on these dark backstories. Almost frame this one. And what I'm going to do at this stage, I'm still thinking of the combat side of it, but when he grows strong enough and has felt the party is weak enough, he will manifest. He will be able to draw these moths and these adventuring corpses into the air. And for every level of misery that he's absorbed, he can create one of these Murmuring Men. So if he grabbed those 3 levels of exhaustion, he could create 3 of these Murmuring Men. Part moth swarm, part mummified adventurer. In fact, in this one, I might do a couple of these Murmuring Men rising up, sort of almost trying to create a tornado effect here. So it has the makings of a very dangerous encounter if the players all fail these saving throws and give up, and the Murmuring Man can feed on this despair that by dredging up these old memories he's created. You know, they could be facing 6 or 7 of these wraith-like beings. Now the tricky part, of course, is going to be onto the players. Like, have they created characters with deep, dark secrets? And there's a very good chance they haven't. Sometimes you just create a very good character. You know, like a paladin who is very pious and hasn't done anything wrong in his life. So how do we deal with that? You might say that everyone has deep, dark secrets, and maybe I'm going to provide a table that a player rolls on if a demon, the Murmuring Man, has gone in deep and found something dark in the pits of this character's soul. And then we might roll a dice, something that even this paladin had suppressed for years before he took the holy path. It might be something like your actions directly led to a man's death and it's haunted you ever since. And then you work with the player to come up with what he actually did. And it's requiring a bit of role-playing right there on the spot to figure out this secret. It might have been, you know, something noble the man did, the paladin did. He found that this person was cheating at his taxes, or something like that. And the paladin did the right thing and turned him in, but this man and his family became poor and destitute and had to live on the street. And maybe from that, the whole family suffered and died in the harsh winter that came from it. And now the paladin, even though he, you know, thinks he's done the right thing, possibly, there is still this guilt and shame that comes to the surface and gets twisted, maybe by the murmuring man, into something worse, or maybe even something the paladin didn't know, that maybe he finds out, or the murmuring man places a doubt in him that this guy actually did cheat on his taxes. Maybe it was just a clerical error. And so, yeah, a lot of on-the-spot role-playing and improv, perhaps, from the players and the DM, but it also means that they're filling out their character a little bit more, creating these things. And it might be that the paladin now wants to find maybe the last surviving members of the family, a young boy or something who's still living on the street, and try and make it right. So that's the goal with this encounter, is to have a fair bit of heavy character creation back and forth, where if characters fail saving throws, they have to accept that their character has a dark secret. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Will players hate it? That suddenly, say, this paladin who wanted to be a very good boy now has this darkness in his past? I think if you work quite well with the DM, I mean, this example I gave, the paladin, wasn't being evil or malicious or anything. He was probably doing his duty, reporting a crime. And yeah, I think players and DMs can make it work. Where you're not dumping something on the player that they have to walk around with. You're not saying, say, this paladin, oh, you slaughtered a family in their sleep one time, and you've not told anyone else about it ever. And then the poor player's like, well, it doesn't sound much like my paladin. No, I think, yeah, it'll be a collab with the DM and the player as they come up with something that makes sense for what their character is. And just opacity that, because he'll be pushed back, and we might even make him a bit bigger. He's risen. Yeah, so I think it'll be a kind of a fun encounter, not just combat, but ultimately will lead to combat, and then probably a knock-on effect is, whoops, I drew on the lines there. I'm just going to cut most of that out. Knock-on effect is characters have to deal with revealing these secrets, even these little secrets where they might not. I mean, imagine if a little secret came out that a co-worker you work with, you just don't like them. You've been polite and professional all this time, but it becomes clear from the secret shared that the other character gets these flashes of moments that he's done that you've frowned upon and not thought of much of, or even gossiped behind their back about something. Maybe that comes out and they see it, the way you talk about them when they're not around. I think that would change your work dynamics quite a bit, and could change the party dynamics as well. And yeah, I'm still going to think about other little minor secrets that could come out from a bare miss on the save from protecting yourself. And then, yeah, just have to figure out how to balance it if the party does really poorly, because it's almost a double up effect. You get more murmuring men, plus you're dealing with levels of exhaustion in this misery mechanic. So I'm thinking you'll probably be able to flee this grove if it's too much. And regroup at some point, even though you'll now be weakened by this misery and have not succeeded in stopping this haunt. Because I had a few hook ideas for this as well, and one which is similar to the stump adventure that I just did is a party of adventurers has gone missing. Maybe they were a well-geared party where people commented on them having some powerful magical items, or they were someone that the party or a party member knew of. So they've gone to investigate what happened to this group. Maybe they just want to get the magic items that this group had, under the pretense of possibly rescuing them if they find out they're still alive. So that was one of the hooks, and the other one was, of course, the necromancer wanting this powerful murmuring man's spirit. So he or she will give the party a soul jar, and what they have to do is weaken the spirit enough, which is basically by killing it in its physical form, to trap it in the soul jar and capture its essence, its spirit, which the necromancer will pay them handsomely for. I always thought these would be good if, say, a character died, and a low-level character, and the party's looking to resurrect them. This could be the task a necromancer who could resurrect them, or say a cleric, asks them to do, to capture this dark, evil spirit. And if they do, then the clerical necromancer will revise a party member. So it'll be a sort of swap a soul for a soul sort of approach. Okay, that one's pretty good too. Quite liking the curve here though. If I get the head in that, looking cool, but I quite like what I've captured here. These will be like little moths almost tugging at cloth, and things like that. So already with me doing 2 pictures, I'm starting to generate a few ideas and angles. That could be on his hair. Wisps of moths. I'll probably do a individual design for the moths as well, just as a insect. Moths, insect? Yes, insect study. Okay. Another one. Group him up. Right. It's another composition I can go for here. I might actually not go for black, but the dark grey. Full opacity. Okay. Might be coming over fallen log here, covered in these white moths. This guy is rising up. So it's kind of similar, but yeah, I might be able to find something in a pose soon. Maybe he's almost moth-like here. And, got that rising to ascension type of vibe, but a little bit broken. So is that the hands could be here. Almost like on a crucifix, but something's carried on here, bone, some pit. Ooh. Move him a little. And then swirly moths coming around. So yeah, I'm not going for anything too detailed at this point. That all comes later on. This is just, at some point, I will step back, see which shape and silhouette sort of leap out at me. This could almost look a little bit like moth wings as he rises, and yeah, just moths. And on this foreground, you'd have all these sort of bulbous moths that I want to look quite translucent and horrible, almost these fat, bloated things that have been feeding on something. What they've been feeding on is like these mummified corpses that litter this grove. And when the party walks in, it'll be quite freaky because they don't try fly or get out of the way. They're hardly moving, so they'll be crunching underfoot. And yeah, they'll see these soaked, almost caked in iron rust ones floating in swamps stuff. So this could be, this foreground bit here could be a good way of showing the moths, what they look like. You know, develop a few, then copy paste, swap, move them around, all that kind of stuff. And then he, Mothman, will be like pushed into the background, into this monochrome world of white. So that could be cool. He should be a little bit smaller in the distance. Have him rising up. Get that smudge tool just to play with this sort of stuff. Yeah, you see pieces of them sticking out, legs. And head could either be very skull-like or leathery skin. I already did a very skull-like one for the stump encounter, so I probably want to feel it a little bit mummified. We might even, just to make it very foregroundy, I'll put a bit of colour behind them. Okay, and then to make it kind of cool, might even, you know, just curve this just a little. Give it a little quirky, twisted vibe. Right. And then, yeah, still having moths all over it. And sometimes an easy way to play with this guy here is just to grab your warp tool, see if you can get a better shape. Don't know if you can hear that. Photoshop's making pretty noises. Go. Maybe. I don't know. Still feeling the first one, I reckon. Just like the curves. Okay. Let's bust out 3 more really quick. Because I think, I don't know, these 2 are kind of good. Let's just go crazy now for 3 that, because I had in my head a couple of silhouettes, which is great. But then it gets hard to just make some up. So the best way to do that, I am going to say, is get very blobby and see what comes out of it. Blobby blobby. So let's do something here. Oh, already I'm seeing that I got away from worrying about foreground and background. I got pretty cool shape. That looks like the back of my phone, just the way I've done it. So and yeah, we definitely want a horror vibe for this guy. Freak the party out. You can already imagine what they're going to be like in that first scene of just seeing moths everywhere. I'll spend half an hour trying to figure out how to walk into it. And maybe one of them will go scout. And he'll get the psychic attack. This is pretty cool. That could be just like a leg bone sticking out here. And the rest is moths. Probably have to get a cool brush. Ooh, he's pretty cool. Gonna give him a bit of soft brushing here to capture some light. See, I'm already liking him for this top guy to come in here. He's got the same sort of curve, but he's just freakier at the moment. Really like what I've done with his head. So not worrying about a neck and stuff. This can be moss and sludge and moths with a bit of a skull in there. That was a pretty successful blobby. But I'm not going to stop there. Now emboldened, I reblob. Maybe try flip it in my head. Maybe have, well, maybe have him crouched. And maybe not the same sort of pose, almost like, this comes down here. Ooh. See, I can't do too much wrong here because these could be cool background murmuring men, you know, if lots of them get raised due to the players' fear really feeding. And then I can sort of have this sort of thing going on with more cool ones coming out the back. I'm going to stick with the no neck though, and sort of capture that flesh, mummified flesh sacks at the top there. And go to Mr. Smudge, play. And you could almost have, because they're rising, this could be sludge and moss and everything coming from the ground and full of little moths all over him. Oh, he's horrible and freaky too. Almost brothers, look at that. And yeah, all these adventurers, again, have backstories like the stump. Though I don't think they'll have special abilities like the stump ones had. They'll, but they all might be, you know, still having the remnants of some magic items on them. This guy could have been a rogue who had a dagger +1. So there's a big incentive to manifest this spirit and raise it. Well, is there? Because otherwise they could just, if they fought off all the psychic attacks and the Murmuring Man didn't manifest, then they could just walk in and loot these fallen adventurers, get this dagger without having to worry about fighting it for them. So what am I going to do about that? I can, yeah, I'll have to have a think. I mean, it's kind of rewarding that the players were very successful. Maybe they were well prepared, blessed spells and stuff to give them a +1d4 in the saving throw. I think bless is saving throw, right? Not ability checks. Maybe these guys are buried quite deep. The swamps claim them. There. So the only way to uncover them is to manifest the spirit so it raises them. Maybe that's it. Have a think. And of course you guys give me ideas too. This is my concepting phase where ideas are formed both from talking and drawing. Careful not to get too carried away there with silhouette. Okay, and yeah, I quite like some grooves, almost like eyes. And then the dodge tool again for a bit of light. Yeah, I really like this guy on the left here. He's going to look freaky deaky, I reckon. And yeah, I can have just these guys maybe in the background. It's rising. That is pretty cool too. Can have rib cages showing. Lots of moths. So, you know, they'll still have moths all over them. And maybe the occasional flying ones. I don't want them to feel too mobile, the moths, but they will be swarming as these guys raise up from these moth-covered puddles and ground. He's pretty cool. So let's do one more. I'm feeling really good. I'm not sure which direction I'll go. Well, what about two adventures combined together? So you got don't know if that'll work, but you might have two heads. These two died side by side. So they'll have 4 arms, right? That's pretty cool. So maybe this is one of the powerful manifestations. Four-armed. Well prepared is four-armed. Yeah. So let's warp them around a bit. Just to... Oh, that's pretty cool. And then you get the old low opacity brush. Play. Yeah, we're looking at each other. Chatting away. What's happened to his head there? But there's another one here. Be in a hood or something. That's pretty cool. And then we just have all sorts of weird appendages going on because they're a mismatch, a mashup of claws. I think he could have a place. He could have a place in my world. Yeah. Okay. So I'll probably leave this here. Go away, come back with fresh eyes. But here's what I'm thinking at the moment. I am thinking combination of this. Still might have a bit of this log more in the front here. A bit of moths. And probably all 3 of these guys in the picture. Rising up. Becoming manifestations of the player's deepest, darkest fears and secrets that they have to face. And maybe they get a level of exhaustion or misery back if they face these fears and defeat them. Could be something like that. Be a little symbolic. Okay, this guy needs a bit of work, but I think there's something there too. He can be a background character. He's definitely cool, that one. Because I think that's sort of almost be like a mouth. And might not give him eyes or anything. It'll be just a blobby mass, you know, like a mummy. And he's got a very cool insect-like quality. Oops, where am I going Okay, so good start for the Murmuring Man. Next session, I'll enlarge this composition and fit these guys in and start to block out that scene. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.